Hi, my name is Talia. Welcome to Talia Nerds Out. I'm feeling a little bit under the weather today, but I did want to do a bit of an October book haul. Just a little bit of, if I kind of have my mind wander a little bit, or look, if I have to pause and come back. I don't know if there's weather coming in. It doesn't say that there is, but I have a little bit of a headache. Maybe I overdid things yesterday with my hair appointment. Anyway, so if I just seem a little bit off, that's it. But I did want to go over a bit of an October book haul with you guys. First things first, I wanted to touch on my Clara Barton related book haul, because first of all, I started reading this for the Manifest Destiny readathon. Whoopsie. Sorry, my books tried to fall. Readathon that is in its first year. It was started by Ariane of Book Zealots. Go check out her channel for rules and stuff. I actually need to go double check her rules and stuff because it's a brand new readathon. I've been so behind on booktube. It's not even funny. But anyway, this one here is not a book haul, but it is related to what I'm going to be talking about. I had started A Woman of Valor, and I really don't care for it. And I'll probably do a review. I'm not done with it. I don't know if I will end up finishing it, but I'll talk about my annoyance with this. I guess I mentioned a little bit, but I have issue with the writing style. It feels a bit historical fiction-y to me in the way it's being written. And I'll go more into detail with that when I eventually do a Clara Barton review. But anyone who's watched my channel before knows how much I hate when history books act like they're, historical fiction books. Just give me my darn facts and stop trying to, pretend you're writing a story. Like, if you want to write historical fiction, write historical fiction. So, not to get myself on that rant again, because I can do that. But yes, so I went and tried to search for something else because I really was not enjoying this. So when I was doing a search, the first thing that came up was this one, Clara Barton's Civil War by Donald C. Pavance. Is that P silent or the F silent? Fance. I'm going to say Fance. Between Bullet and Hospital. Now, I saw some people in the reviews saying that, does he even like Clara Barton? From what I understand, this is taken from the writings of people who knew her. And so I felt that that would give an important aspect. I can use my own judgment to filter out whatever he has to say, but from what I understand, this is taken from other people's writings, which is all I really want. But then someone else mentioned it was a good supplement to Barton's own writings. So I went and found A Quiet Will, The Life of Clara Barton. Now, Clara Barton never actually wrote her own autobiography. She started, but she never finished it. She just was too busy. But this is written by, I want to say, a great nephew of hers, William E. Barton. And not only does he provide her letters, he also has like family lore, people who knew her that he talked to personally, things that he talked to her about. So this is a very good source. I'm actually really enjoying this. There's facts in here and background in here that I don't know why this book didn't touch on it. It's far more interesting what they did here than what they did here. Now, I will say that there's some editing issues, like maybe because of the age of the book, the editing wasn't, particularly great. So sometimes I had to sit there a little bit and pay a little bit more attention to see where Clara's stuff, like her personal writings, end and where the narration begins. But this is a much more credible source, in my opinion, and it removes all the annoying fluff. But I haven't finished it. I did get farther in this than I did in the other one. I'm at page 4, not even that, I'm a little farther. Page 72. So this is the Clara Barton book I'm reading now. And I'll put aside Stephen B. Oates. I might even get rid of it. I mean, I wrote in a little bit and highlighted a little bit, but I can't see myself finishing it. But like I said, I'll do an actual review of that at some other point. But these are I'm not reading this time around, but these are my Clara Barton books that I'll be keeping. It's definitely this one. And like I said, it's A Quiet Will, The Life of Clara Barton by William E. Barton. First released, I want to say in 1852. Oh, no, I'm sorry, not quite that late. No, I mean, not quite that early. 1922? That late? Let me see. I'm sorry, 1852, what it says back here is one of her writings. So that makes sense. Okay, so 1922, it looks like when this was released. That year makes more sense than what I said before. So, 1922, it's a thick old chunker. So, slowly making my way through that. Then, for some of my other book haul stuff, I did pick up, and this is, let me grab this. I had a very kind, we had some visitors related to my mom, my knitting channel. And the husband collects stamps, and he found out that I've used stamps before in my book journaling. And I'd get the book journal out, but if I do that, I'll knock stuff over behind y'all. But I will show you the fact that he saw that I did book journaling, and he went, and since he's a stamp collector, and I had used stamps in my book journaling, I made a point of showing it to the husband because I didn't want him to feel like, while the rest of us were talking knitting or something, I didn't want to, make him feel left out. So I thought his stamp stuff was interesting, so I showed him the stamps I used in my book journal, and he ended up being really kind and sending me, besides some really nice stamps that were on the envelope, these Christmas stamps. So I tend to read at least one Christmas book each year. So this will go in my book journal when I do those Christmas books. This is just a bunch of book journaling stuff here. Not just book journaling, but normal journaling too. Okay, there we go. So I did also, because I'm running a bit low on my Christmas books, and I like to have some sort of, not only like Christmas fiction books, I mean that too, but I like to have Christmas history books. And last year I did Tudor Christmas. I want to say the year before, down go all the books. And I want to say the year before I did Victorian Christmas. I think I did Regency Christmas at some point too. But, okay, I think I picked them all up. I found a selection that was on sale. Didn't get the ones that weren't because, money. But I think all of these were like $7. Each of these were $7 or less. This one is, and because I get all mine used, this is Christmas Customs and Traditions, Their History and Significance. And apparently it's illustrated as well. I wanted something that wasn't just focused on England, so hopefully this is going to give me some of the stuff in other countries as well. It looks like it might, because it looks like I have stuff of Spain in here, so that's cool. So there's that one. Then I have, this one looks really cool to me, and this actually is somewhat related to the book I read last year about the Tudor Christmas, because that book touched on the fact that when the Puritans moved to America, they, for a long time, like, there was no Christmas celebrations. And, like, you would get fined if you celebrated Christmas because they were so anti-Christmas, because related, the associations with Catholicism, and some of the traditions did include a lot of drunkenness when people were celebrating, because that was a really big holiday and really a time when particularly the peasantry could just really just enjoy themselves and not have to worry about much of, you could have things like people switching roles, like I think it's like what the King of Misrule. I can't remember. My brain's not working right now, but there were times during the different points of celebration, where there was like topsy-turvy for roles. You had the boy bishops. You had all these sorts of things. But the Puritans didn't approve of all that. So when they came to America, they took that mindset with them. And this book is associated with that. This is The Battle for Christmas, a cultural history of America's most cherished holiday. So I'm interested in this. I know that Massachusetts would have been an issue because that was a big, Puritan settlement place. And I remember noticing, did another book fall underneath here? Yes, it did. I remember noticing that when I was reading John and Abigail Adams' letters with Arion from Book Zealots earlier in the year, I remember noticing that there was no real mentioning of Christmas in any big way, which makes sense because they were from Massachusetts. Next one here is Stories Behind the Great Traditions of Christmas, which I'm thinking maybe this one this year. It's a smaller book. It's going to talk about like Advent and candy canes, Christmas carols, holly. So just like neat little fun stuff. I feel like I've got a lot going on like reading wise. So if I'm feeling like I get a little overwhelmed, I might just do this one, which is nice and small. Read a little bit of it each day like I did for the Tudor Christmas. I like the way the Tudor Christmas one was set up because they actually set it up by the days of Christmas, which was really nice. But then there is this one. There Really Is a Santa Claus, The History of St. Nicholas and Christmas Holiday Traditions by William J. Federer. Oh, includes U.S. President's Christmas addresses. That's kind of cool. But, looks like someone used this for school or something because I've got some penciling in here. I like the margin. There's going to be a lot of room for me to write in here. But yeah, I look forward to, see some of the old Christmas Santa Claus pictures. So it's going to cover, of course, besides the stories of actual historical St. Nicholas, it's going to probably go into the St. Nicholas within the culture of America, because I think that Britain mostly leaned, I'm not sure if they still do, leaned toward Father Christmas versus St. Nicholas. And finally, for the Christmas stash, this one looks really fun. I couldn't find one for knitting, but this is The Quilter's Night Before Christmas, A Treasury of Tradition by Sue Reich. And what it does is it tells the story of a night before Christmas, but it shows it, first it gives a little bit of a history. Okay, so here's a random page for the stockings were hung by the chimney with care in hopes that St. Nicholas would soon be there. So what they'll do is they'll tell the story, but then they'll have a quilt that deals with that part of the story on the opposite page. And they'll say who did that particular quilt section. So here's another one. The children were nestled all snug in their beds while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. So here are the kids. So these are like really fun little quilts, and it just talks about their thought processes when they were going through making these quilts, as well as, like I said, telling the story as it goes. So just a fun little Christmas craft related book. And it'll just be, oh, hey, look, it has quilting patterns in the back. I love quilts. I can't quilt. I don't do sewing, but I love the idea of quilts. I love how quilts feel, and I love how they look. They're so Americana. And the whole idea of it intimidates me. Even though I'm a knitter, you'd think I wouldn't be. But at this point, I wouldn't trust my ability to focus. I'm not with the brain fog and stuff. But I just love quilts. And I love that they provide the patterns on the back. So, Arion, I know you quilt. You might want to look up this book. I had to find it used. It was really expensive without getting it used. I found it like more than half price on eBay, which was pretty amazing. I got so lucky, and this is in really good shape. So I got so lucky. Okay, so that's the Christmas part. And then finally, I want to show my Princeton Press book haul because they had their 70% off. I don't know if it's still running, but their 70% off sale. They're evil. And by evil, I mean in the best way possible. I mean that they are very bad for me. They have the most amazing sales. And usually I can find something that I want, which is why I need to ignore their emails most of the time. But this time I was dumb and I looked at their email and I found some things that I wanted. So the first one is by James E. Lewis Jr., The Burr Conspiracy, Uncovering the Story of an Early American Crisis. Now, like, almost half the book is notes. So I'm thinking that the notes must be somewhat important for this particular book. So I'll probably have 2 bookmarks in here. One for the actual book part and one that will let me go back and forth with the notes. Hopefully they actually, okay, it looks like it's not just based off a page number, because I hate it when they do it just based off a page number, because if I'm not keeping up, like if it doesn't tell me in the text that there's a footnote somewhere, I won't know that I need to look back. I want to say, like, that's a problem I have with The Fellowship, the book about the Inklings, because I just have to, like, kind of remember to look back at the page numbers because they don't tell me that there's footnotes. Or endnotes, excuse me. So I actually like it when they number it. I like it even better when they're footnotes versus endnotes, like they do in The Stripping of the Altars by Eamon Duffy. But not a lot of books that I've read have the footnotes, unfortunately. So most of them do the endnotes. But this looks good. The War of 1812 book that, Ariane, I'm so sorry. I know we're supposed to be reading that together. Where are you at in that? Because I haven't been reading it because I wasn't sure where you are at. And I'm so bad at communication. So, I am willing to restart reading that at any point. I just didn't know where you were at. But that it got me wanting to learn a bit more about Burr's stuff. Then I have here, and this one might be good for, whoopsie, ouch, next year's Victober. This is How to Do Things with Books in Victorian Britain. And I guess they used to use the pages as decoration, things that I could never do. But it talks about, like I said, just different ways that they would use books. I saw a picture in here. I wanted to see what. So, a family magazine for Sabbath reading, Sunday at home. So I guess this has to do with everything about books in the Victorian age. Although I thought I saw something about, okay, supplementing close readings with a sensitive reconstruction of how Victorians thought and felt about books. Okay, so How to Do Things with Books in Victorian Britain asks how our culture came to frown on using books for any purpose other than reading. When did the coffee table book become an object of scorn? Coffee table books are an object of scorn? Anyway, why did law courts forbid witnesses to kiss the Bible? What made Victorian cartoonists mock commuters who hid behind the newspaper, ladies who matched their book's binding to their dress, and servants who reduced newspapers to fish and chips wrap? Shedding new light on novels by Thackeray, Dickens, the Brontes, Trollope, and Collins, as well as the urban sociology of Henry Mayhew, Leigh Price. Leigh Price is the author. Leigh Price also uncovers the lives and afterlives of anonymous religious tracts and household manuals. From knickknacks to waste paper, books matter to the Victorians in ways that cannot be explained by their printed content alone. And whether displayed, defaced, exchanged, or discarded, printed matter participated and still participates in a range of transaction that stretches far beyond reading. So, and they show an example on the cover of someone making roses out of pages. And the funny thing is, part of me likes the idea of it, but a larger part of me recoils at the idea of destroying a book in that way. But I also think it's cool to have something where roses or something, and you can tell that there's a story in there, or to use part of a page for a book journal. But like I said, to actually destroy a book to create a piece of art, a part of me just recoils at that idea. Then there's this one, Jane Austen, Early and Late. And it is Jane Austen's 6 novels, published toward the end of her life, represent a body of work that is brilliant, that is as brilliant as it is compact. Her earlier writings have routinely been dismissed as mere juvenilia, or stepping stones to mature proficiency and greatness. Austen's first biographer described them as childish effusions. And this book argues that the novels, the juvenilia, cannot be definitively separated. So the author argues that the novels, the published novels, cannot be definitively separated from this unpublished work, the juvenilia. So, examining 3 manuscript volumes in which Austen collected her earliest writings, Johnston finds that Austen's regard and affection for these writings are revealed by her continuing to revisit and revise them throughout her adult life. The teenage works share the milieu and humor of the novels, while revealing more clearly the sources and influences upon which Austen drew. Johnston upends the conventional narrative, according to which Austen discarded the satire and fantasy of her first writings in favor of the irony and realism of the novels. By demonstrating a stylistic and thematic continuity across the full range of Austen's work, Johnston asks whether it makes sense to speak of an early and a late Austen at all. So this is going to provide another point of view on Austen. We'll see if I end up agreeing with her or not. I don't always agree with the points of view of people who write on Austen, but I always am interested in hearing about their point of view. This one looks cool. The Dictionary by Peter Martin. The Dictionary Wars by Peter Martin. The American Fight Over the English Language. So getting this is how the Merriam-Webster Dictionary came around, and just getting more of an American English developed. So this just looks cool. Part of it makes me think of a couple of books I've already read. Makes me think of the Professor and the Madman, that talks about the creation of OED, the Oxford English Dictionary. The Ring of Words, that talks about J.R.R. Tolkien's involvement with the Oxford English Dictionary. And then That's the Ticket for Soup, which I just finished reading about the cartoon, I guess, newspaper Punch, complaining about the changes in the English language, particularly about Americanisms, and I need to do a review about that book. But this kind of makes me think of those books, but from a more American point of view. So I'm interested in reading more about this. And finally, I saw this book, and actually when it came in, it's kind of like what happened when I had the book by Houdini come in, the Magician and the Spirits, I think it's called, the one about him debunking a lot of spiritualist stuff, the stuff that mediums would do. But this makes me think of what happened when that book came in. That book came in, I meant to just flip through it and go, oh, that's cool, and put it away. But then I started reading it. That's what happened to this book. So this is Hard to Break. Why Our Brains Make Habits Stick. Russell A. Poldrack. And this is the neuroscience of why bad habits are so hard to break, and how evidence-based strategies can help us change our behavior more effectively. So just goes into the neurology of just why our brains, get to a point where we do some of these habitual things, bad or otherwise, some of the things that we don't even think about, and how it connects to the way our brains learn, the way we remember things, that kind of thing. I'm not terribly far in. It came in yesterday, and I read 15 pages yesterday. It's very easy to read so far. Might not be everyone's cup of tea if you're not particularly interested in neurology, but this is very interesting to me. So that's it for the Princeton Press book haul. And actually that's it for my October book haul. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed seeing some of these books that I picked up. I was really excited what I could find on sale or really cheap used. For people who are new to my channel, I get most of my books from like eBay, or I will scour the internet until I find the lowest price I possibly can. So it allows me to pick up more books than I would be able to otherwise. And every once in a while, maybe splurge on something because I get as many good deals as possible otherwise. And for me, it's just, I don't absorb as well reading from the Kindle. I absorb so much better when I'm reading a physical book. It just doesn't sink in the same way digitally for whatever reason. Anyway, I think partially because I write in my margins and highlight and stuff. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me. If you found anything that you like, let me know. I am interested, particularly if, Ariane, if you think that you might be interested in the Quilter's Night Before Christmas. That kind of seems like it's up your alley. But thank you very much for joining me. I will see you all the next time that I have something I need to share or want to share with y'all. God bless. Bye-bye.